was that all I needed to be doing is breathing. All I need is to breathe. So my father says to me, life is about breathing. If you're breathing, you're okay. Tomorrow you'll wake up, you'll try again. And if not, just keep breathing. So as long as I'm breathing, tomorrow I can try again. Right?
But that doesn't influence you to think about your breaths every single second, like I'm breathing, I'm good.
How about think of it this way? Our spirituality as African people is connected to our culture.
Okay.
And my breath is like the voice or the existence of my father within me. And I think the books says that too.
Yeah.
When I breathe, I feel consciousness. I am conscious of who I am. And I breathe out. I can feel myself. You know, and it comes from that notion of like if somebody was to, you know, hold your breath, you're not gonna die straight away. Something's inside you will be still functioning, but the first thing you lose is consciousness.
Yeah, and I think it's a positive way of encouraging kids during tough times.
Exactly. So
like even though things are going wrong or like things are not well, or
as long as you're breathing,
you're losing your friends, you're moving from one place to the other, you know, like you still feel okay that you're breathing.
Yeah, you're breathing. So as long as you're breathing, brother,
that's it.
You're okay. You know, and don't believe in, so death exists, but in Africa we don't die. We God calls and we respond.
Yeah.
So what has created by our creator or God has to die in order for it to live. So here we're just manifesting our next life. So what it means is that as I breathe, I am present here. And if I don't breathe, then I do not know, because I'm not conscious.
Yeah.
Then I'm not here. So even death, in a say, it only exists in my thought. My thoughts die, like everything. But me, myself, I have to believe that I'm forever. Because the day that I cease to breathe, if I know, then I'm not dead.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm breathing, as long as you're breathing, you can wake up and you can try again. As long as you're breathing, you can sum yourself up and say sorry to yourself or to somebody else. As long as you're breathing, brother, everything is possible. You see?
So now, like, with all those positive elements that you have learned from Africa and the languages that you are blessed with, like arriving to Australia, you know, what was that like for you? Maybe with the conception or the concept that like this is the very place that you have come to settle here. Like, how did you start that life in Australia, like from your arrival?
I had high expectations. I had very, very high expectations. You know, the movies will lie to you.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll put that out there for Australia, because we were watching American movies most of the times, you know, and American life is not the Australian life. When I came here, I remember getting out of the plane, the first thing that hit me was the humidity.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay, this is going to be... And it took me almost a year just to make friends, you know. In Africa, you know, your neighbors.
Did you join school, or like, you know, what have you been doing for all this 1 year?
When I got here, like, I came on a spouse visa, so there's so much I was allowed by the government. And this meant that my then stepmother, if that's the best way to say it, I don't think we have that in our language, but English is what it is. You know, it meant that she had to take care of me financially, me and my father, because we came under her name.
Yeah.
So that meant that I could not really go to uni, I could not get Centrelink, I could not do anything that required the government to help me per se, for the first 4 years of my life in Australia. I did try to get into uni. I got into Griffith University. I was doing criminology, but I could not afford to study and work. So I had to give up one for the other. But through my life here, one thing that continued was my artistry. So there is that part of school didn't work, so I kept working into other jobs. Like I worked some really odd jobs and really nice jobs. But
yeah, we all did that, like warehousing, meat factory,
abattoirs,
farming.
And I picked berries. I've done, I've cleaned.
Yeah.
I've done some really weird stuff. But also my artistry, my music, my dance, and my writing and my speaking, and other things that have sort of kept me afloat. But Australia was not what I had fathomed it to be or what I thought it would be, even though I have come now to understand and
the
comprehend the system and how the system works. And you find that actually there is a genuinity in it, and that it's not as difficult as when you start. And that one thing that I've liked about Australia is help is there.
Yeah,
you just gotta find it.
Knock on the door.
You just gotta
ask
find
questions.
it. You gotta knock on the door. You gotta get it yourself. It's more like Africa. Your mother, your sister worried about you, right?
Yeah.
Your uncle, everybody. But here is self-contained. So to say that, Natal, if you got in trouble right now, you can call the cops. They'll come here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Same as if you got in trouble, you can call the ambulance. It will come now. Same as if you had a car problem, you'll call RSCQ or somebody and they'll come right now.
Yeah.
But everything is service-based. It's not moral-based like where we came from. Like it was my duty to make sure that you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It is my duty to make sure that you have water. It is my duty to make sure that I check on you. And
in Africa, we say the community can raise
community
the kids or
raises the
child.
kid and it raises you. And I think that's what's different about Australia opposed to Africa. But in terms of opportunity, Australia has given a whole lot of us opportunity, and I cannot thank Australia enough for even allowing us to be here with we have a lot of trauma that we come with. Not a long trauma, like we've got a lot of other things that we bring, like it's like getting into somebody else's house and you're bringing all of your culture and all these other things. And I think that on that part, Australia has been very, very good to us in that sense. But I also think that there is a moral code or a moral value that Africans and other cultured communities can also bring to the tapestry of Australia, because I think in terms of identifying your neighbor and identifying your neighbor's problems or even what makes them happy, that's what is lacking in Australia. And I think that's where a lot of mental health issues come through.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a great thing that you have mentioned some positive things about Australia with opportunities that we find here, because a lot of migrants and refugees, most of us who have come here, we found very difficult to access services